coming from Asia meets here. Anybody coming from Europe meets here. Okay, anybody come from Africa meets here. Why here? Because here is the only place where you can cross over from one side of the country to the other side without going over mountains. What are we looking at? We're looking at that intersection right down here. So if this piece of real estate is the crossroads of three continents, this valley is the crossroads of the crossroads. Whoever controls this valley controls this. Whoever controls this controls land access to three continents. You're starting to understand why this is so important. Why it all comes together. Why battles have been fought in that valley down through history. The oldest recorded battle. You can hold up the And what I try to impress on you is that Roman period, these guys were living a pretty good life. The rich and the famous were really, really up there. They were running the world at the time. I mean, it's hard for us to imagine how much wealth, how much power these people had. Okay, and when you read something in the Testament, you need to have that in your mind. This is high society in ways that we don't even know how to do. But I want to go over to the corner over there and show you one more room of the palace.
To this, but they can't have their picture taken with us and still stay healthy. Is that clear enough? Yeah. Ever since the vaccine authority was established, that
what's called the Temple Mount, and behind me is the Dome of the Rock, which was built by Islam in the 7th century. But prior to that, of course, we had Solomon's Great Temple. Once it was destroyed by the Babylonians, Herod built the temple just before the time of the Lord. So this was where the Lord would come to teach, go into the temple right here on the Temple Mount. And we believe in the future, the third temple, when Christ reigns, will also be on this site. So it's a tremendous historic site.
Most of the scholars would say that the temple stood where that piece of stone actually from Mount Moriah, much bigger, much prominent, sticking up. That the Muslims would have built the dome there because they wanted it on the spot where the temple would have stood. I mean, you get the whole idea, okay? But there is an argument, and here's the thing: if this is true, then you could have built the next temple here without having to take that down. And there are prophecies in Revelation that kind of seem to point in that direction. And there are a lot of people who like this very good, nice, PC kind of arrangement, if it ever does come. So this is called the Northern Temple Theory, the Dome of the Spirit theory. I think Pastor John doesn't really accept it either.
There's one school of thought that this may actually be the site of the temple and not this.
So what you're looking at is the western wall, not the western wall of the temple, the western wall of the temple platform. And the wall of the temple platform goes all around Mount Moriah. The thing is that for years and years and years, this was the closest place that you could come to where the temple stood on top of the temple platform, because the Muslim quarter was built up against the western wall. So the closest place that you could actually come touch the wall, closest place to the temple itself, is right here, which is why Jews for thousands of years would come here, get as close to the temple as they could, touch the wall, and remember the temple that was destroyed. And when they remembered the temple was destroyed, they would cry. Which is why this piece of the western wall is also called the Wailing Wall. That's where its name comes from, and that's what made it special. The tears of 2,000 years of persecution and remembering all coming together on this little piece of real estate.
I think of how precious we are to the Lord, to Jesus, that He knows us by name. If I selected any one of you at random and asked you to give the first and second name of everyone in this group, I'm not sure many of you could do it. And we've been together for a few days. I even got someone's name wrong when we're baptizing her. But think how wonderful this is. That Jesus is the Good Shepherd, and He knows you by name. And furthermore, He goes ahead of us, and we follow. That to me gives me great confidence and security in life. Together a crown of thorns and put it on his head. They clothed him in a purple robe, went up to him again and again, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And they struck him in the face. Once more Pilate came out and said to the Jews, "Look, I'm bringing him out to you to let you know that I find no basis for a charge against him." When Jesus came out wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe, Pilate said to them, "Here is the man." As soon as the chief priests and their officials saw him, they shouted, "Crucify, crucify." But Pilate answered, you take him and crucify him. As for me, I find no basis for a charge against him." The Jews insisted, "We have a law, and according to that law he must die, because he claimed to be the Son of God." So this was blasphemy. When Pilate heard this, he was even more afraid and went back inside the palace. "Where did you come from?" he asked Jesus. Jesus gave no answer. Do you refuse to speak to me?" Pilate said. "Don't you realize I have power either to free you or to crucify you?"
Guys, only soft to drink for $1. Water,